Paul Thomas Anderson, more than anything, I think, he's a filmmaker that, as a writer-director, has been such a unique and profound voice of his generation and one of the great filmmakers of his time. There's just so few filmmakers that have, an unexpected sort of way of tackling different subjects. And there's always such mystery and intrigue, and there's the element of the unknown with his characters and his stories that makes you want to continue watching his work. So, he brought this film to me, and it was something he was working on for 10 years, and I simply jumped at the opportunity to be able to collaborate with him and work with him. My character kind of kicks into full gear when we see these dark forces from his past come back to get him, and the one thing that he's trying to protect most dearly, and that's his daughter. What is freedom for this character is what Paul kept on bringing up, and that is to not have any fear. And she was very fearless in her approach. She's fearless in her personality. Yeah, he is an arch villain, but he brought a humanity to it and an incredible insecurity, a needing to belong to something, the humanity that Sean was able to bring to this, and that's as a result of what a great actor he is very unique in the realm of arch villains. She really took command of this character. We really needed somebody that could encapsulate the innocence of her generation, the cynicism of what they think of their parents, the world that they live in, and yet be strong and powerful and do this incredible transformation that she has to make in this movie, where that innocence is then lost. I've always wanted to work with Benicio for so long. He came in, kind of halfway through the film. We kind of already established this world, yet he didn't have a lot of rehearsal time because he was off shooting another movie. And as soon as he came in, he just brought an intensity, but a reality of who this man was. The comedy, I think, comes from like, oh my God, this is really real. Whatever I did in my past is really coming back to haunt me, and I'm now in what seems like a James Bond movie, but I am not capable or well-equipped whatsoever to deal with the opposition in any way. And that creates a very comedic element that I think just comes naturally. I don't think it was something that we tried to force. The action sequences are really bold, but done in a way that is, again, in a Paul Thomas Anderson fashion that is very unexpected. It's not your traditional action. He propels you with a tension that starts from the beginning and lasts throughout the entirety of this movie. There's not a second that you can kind of take a breath.
Perfidia is very complex. Perfidia got a lot going on. And Perfidia is very selfish, but I think that Perfidia is just a girl who is in survival mode. And I think being in survival mode is a scary place. When you're in survival mode, the trust issues is out the door. You know what I'm saying? So it's like she's complicated, but it's still something that you empathize with. I got a call from PTA, and that was already an instant yes. He called me, he was like, hey, what's up? I was like, who the hell is this? He said, I'm Paul. I knew instantly when he said, I'm Paul. I was like, oh, wow. And we spoke for a good amount of time, and, I was down. He didn't even have to tell me about the character. Like, this is a genius we're talking about. It feels like family, and not only am I alongside Paul, but Paul's alongside people he's been working with for decades, so you already know it feels like home. But I love his balance of like his toughness, but his love and his warmth, and it feels really good to work with him. My boy Leonardo DiCaprio. Oh my God, Bob is my favorite. That's my ghetto Pat. That is my ghetto Pat. He's so amazing, and he's such a leader. Like Leo is a leader. He really is, because even in between those takes, we go and practice, we go and study, and we have dialogue about it. I think that's what really makes it funny between him and Perfidia, like their dynamic and their relationship. Perfidia is just Perfidia. She's crazy and has no filter in her own right, and then Bob has no filter in his own right, and I just think them together is like the most oddest but like cutest pair. Like it's just something in there with them.
I always tell people that it's not going to go where you think it's going to go. And every like time you think you can predict what's going to happen, trust is going to go in the opposite direction. Bob and Willa's relationship in the film is something that like truly drives like the film itself, and the love that Bob has for Willa, and like the extremes that he will go to just to protect the one person that he truly loves. I think just like getting to find the levels of their relationship, where they are, where they finish, and like where they end up at the end of the story. It was such an inspiring thing to do with him, because I mean, obviously, he is Leonardo DiCaprio, and he has like had a plethora of experience that like he's on everybody's famous actor list. He's been in at least everybody's like one of their favorite films. So getting to have that journey with him and have those in-depth conversations with him was a treat, and it is something that I'll never forget. Sean brought such an intensity to him that truly like was terrifying at times. Like I remember the first time that I met him was our first day shooting together, and we like right from the get-go are like getting into this intense scene of like conflicting, and he just brought such an intensity to that scene and to those moments that like I genuinely was like scared at times, because I was like, oh my gosh, and the way he could just switch it on and off. I think working with Paul has been, in my experience, an actor's dream, because he just wants you to play, and he gives you the permission to play and explore the character in ways that even he potentially couldn't see. And he's there to like guide us along the way and be like, okay, well, why do you think that? We'll have discussions back and forth. But like he trusts us all to stay authentic to our own characters, for me to stay authentic to Willa. And I think that because he trusted me and because he trusted us, it let us play a lot more within the world.
The freedom with which he wrote and writes was exciting, and it was, it has a lot of shifts in tone, great characters all the way down the line. It was a page turner, and I think I called Paul right away and said, where do I go? I've seen the movie several times, and while it's not, this is not like a comedy per se, it's its own animal. Sometimes even in the most torturous stuff, I just find it's such a giggle, because it's a view through an original mind, and I think that we're not used to, we don't see enough of that in the movies. And I suspect everyone enjoys that, to really be trusted with something fresh. She's a force. I mean, if there's fierce, she's fierce. She's an extraordinarily gifted actress. It just comes on fire and so naturally to her. Paul did not want us to meet early on, and that goes to the relationship. So I didn't meet her for a long time, but I did see, until we started working together. But I would see her around set sometimes, and I saw her in dailies, and I just thought, how did he find someone so perfect for this? This whole cast was really, made me very happy to be around. I was interested in how he was going to approach action, and like everything else, it will have an originality. It's not going to be a copycat of one thing or another.
I could say it was an action, I could say it was a comedy, I could say it was a drama, all three, and it still wouldn't. But I'd have to specifically say it's a PTA film, because, his storytelling is so unique, and there's a stamp that you just know a PTA film. I think she represents the future and the hope and And you know, Bob loves her very much. I mean, Willa she has a lot that she has to learn in a very short amount of time. And she kind of holds her own in this world. Chase brings, I mean, I'm so excited for everyone to get to see her and her performance, and she's great. So it's still like it's action, but it's a PTA version of action, right? So it's still through that lens, you know, that his filmmaking lens, but the scope of that feels big. The scenes, how they're caught. It's, you know, it's certainly bigger than it read on paper. I told Paul, I said, you know, you read it and it says car chase, chaos, TBD. Then you get on set and you're like, wait, we're gonna actually be weaving through cars, and we're on a highway, and you know they're running, and it's telling you know you can't. I guess my brain couldn't necessarily envision that amount of chaos, but I think that's what makes it exciting, is that it's bigger, but it's still honest.
It's just fun to work with someone like Leo, who's a great actor, but also funny, because I get to sit front row and enjoy it. You know, I get to see him do it. I get to sit there and really receive it and really kind of like have a blast doing it, you know? And so, you know, so that was part of my job, was to really enjoy Leo being funny. And that's a good job to have. Even though it's big and full of action and stunts and there's explosions, there's all kinds of action movie stuff, but all through it, it's a Paul exploring that human condition, and that's at the core of the film. And I think that's what makes it a little bit different. You know, that relationship between Leo's character and Chase's character, it's the heart of the film. 3 words: Paul Thomas Anderson. I mean, really. You know, Paul Thomas Anderson says, hey, I got a script, I got a part that I want you to play. You don't read it. I didn't read it. I showed up at El Paso and said, hey, what are we doing? Oh, okay, you know, let's do it. And then you add to that Leo, Sean. It's like, you know, you just go.
Randomly out of the blue, he sends me a text message and he just said, hey, you know, my name's Paul Thomas Anderson. You know, I make movies. You know, would I be able to give you a call? And I said, sure, when? He's like, right now. So I took the call and we talked. We had a great conversation. You know, it's like the first time you talk to Paul Thomas Anderson is the same as if you were talking to your best friend for the last 20 years. He's that engaging and that welcoming and warming. And, you know, I said, you know, what's it about? And he said, well, how about you just read the script and, you know, tell me if you like it. And he dropped some names. He goes, but if you do read it and you do like it, well, Leonardo DiCaprio is going to play this, and Regina Hall is going to play this, Teyana Taylor's going to play this. He had probably already cast Chase Infiniti. I'm like, well, yeah, I would love to read it. All of their performances were so dynamic and individual and powerful. It was so hard in one viewing. It was so hard to take all of it in. Leo's character was so mesmerizing that it was hard to take my eyes off of him. But yet, there's another powerful performance with, you know, Teyana Taylor or Regina Hall or, you know, Chase Infiniti. You know, I can go on and on and on. Everybody's got such a powerful role that, you know, you don't want to miss anything. And it was just cool to watch. And you know, PTA film is like that. Like, you can watch it 10 times. You know, you can watch it 100 times, and you're going to get a different experience every time. And that's, you know, that's why, you know, that's why he's got such, you know, a following, is because the experiences you get out of his movies are just, you know, they're second to none.